Hello, and welcome to NBC News. Tonight's special is on child trafficking.
Every year, about 1.2 million children around the world are trafficked. Trafficked children are used for prostitution, forced into marriage, illegally adopted, used as cheap or unpaid labor, used for sport and organ harvesting, or recruited into armed groups. Human trafficking has surpassed the sale of illegal arms and will soon pass the sale of illegal drugs. Children ranging in all ages are trafficked, but the average age of a trafficked child is 11 to 14 years old, as children are deemed easier to manipulate than adults. Today we have an expert panel to talk more about these issues, how these issues affect children in Ghana, Brazil, and India. Welcome, experts! Amy is an expert on Ghana and has personally witnessed many of the accounts we'll be talking about today. Deborah is from Brazil, and she will be speaking directly to the issues faced in Brazil with child trafficking. Finally, we have Nancy, who will be our expert on India and child trafficking today. Before we get started, I just want to remind you that although each of these countries rank top 10 in the world for their high child trafficking rates, each are located in different parts of the world, from South America to West Africa to Asia. First off, let's get some background on each country. What's the geography like?
India is a peninsula and is one of the largest countries in the world. The geography ranges from desert to jungle. There are even the Himalayas in the north.
Unlike India, Ghana consists of mainly plains and low plateaus. It is only slightly smaller than the state of Oregon.
Brazil is one of the largest countries in South America, ranking 5th in the world, just like India. It is also known for its dense forest and its jungles, such as the Amazon. Brazil has many different soils and climates, which make it so they can produce large amounts of crops. One similar geographical aspect of Ghana and Brazil is the rugged hills and immense plateaus.
And what about the population size of each country?
In terms of population size, India is biggest with 1,236,344,631 people. Brazil has 183,888,841 people.
And Ghana has 24,399,838 people.
Wow, that's a lot of people in Ghana, considering it's smaller than the state of Oregon. In order to understand the issues plaguing these societies today, we must understand the greater context. Can you each share a little bit about the history of Ghana, Brazil, and India?
The earliest known Indian civilizations arose about 5,000 years ago with the Indus River.
That is similar time frame to the first civilizations in Ghana, which arose around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago.
Brazil is thought to have the first civilization arise 32,000 years ago. It was in 1530 that the Portuguese set up a colony.
What are some of the commonalities between these three countries?
Ghana was taken over by Britain during the 20th century.
The British also took control in 1757 that lasted for about 100 years in India. The British system that was in place then is still in place now. India still has a federal republic government set up. Brazil is similar to India because they have a democratic federal republic. Though they have struggled achieving democracy at first, Brazil has stable politics since 1995.
Ghana is different, however, because they have a constitutional democracy.
What would you say is the most important aspect of each of the country's cultures?
Brazilians have descended from 3 ethnic groups called the Amerindians, European settlers, and Africans. Brazilians also enjoy soccer, and some of the best players in Latin America are from Brazil.
In Ghana, there are more than 50 different ethnic groups, each with their own different customs and languages. Similarly to Brazil, soccer is the national sport in Ghana. Additionally, its school system is more advanced than its other African countries.
Society in India is split into castes, and more than 80% of Indians are Hindus. 13% of the people in India are Muslim. Other religions that began in India include Buddhism, Sikhism, and Jainism.
Obviously, today's panel is based on child trafficking, but it's important to understand the context behind each of the issues these three countries face. issue that we're all here for, child trafficking. How does each of these countries interact or deal with child trafficking?
There's not just one type of trafficking. Children are trafficked by jobs, industries, and sexual abuse. In Brazil, women and children are exploited in sex trafficking. Young girls are also used for sex trafficking in India.
Ghana's trafficking is a little bit different. Ghanaian children are trafficked from their home and villages to work in the fishing industry, where they will have to live in awful conditions and work long hours each day. These kids are used by fishermen who desperately need to feed their families. It's crazy that they make the children dive into the water in order to free the fishing net from the tree stumps that are scattered throughout the river.
I want to thank all three of you for being here today. This panel was incredibly informative, and I know that the viewers at home, as well as our studio audience, really enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Now we have a personal child trafficking story to share with you guys, all of you guys tonight. To end our program, Amara was taken captive in India and sold into a child trafficking ring at the young age of 12. Sarah met up with her to hear more about her story.
Amara is a young girl who escaped child trafficking after being held captive for 4 years. She opened up about how she was taken from her family and the horrible things she was forced to do.
In the middle of the night, a man came into my room and grabbed me. I was half asleep when I realized what was happening to me. He took me to a ship where he tore off my clothes and beat me. A few days later, after the bruising and cuts had scarred, he sold me into prostitution. From there, I worked for whoever would want me, and my pimp slowly came to need me.
What did all these people think when they realized you were only 12?
Many never asked how old I was. Most of the girls who I worked under the same pimp with were all about the same age, and so most of the customers knew what was going on. But you have to understand that in India, most people think child trafficking is okay and even normal. Being away from your parents and not attending school is just part of growing up in their eyes. It's a culture problem more than anything else, because parents let child traffickers get away with taking their children.
How do you ultimately get away from your pimp?
One night, after my pimp had gone for a few hours trying to drum up some business, one of my friends and I decided if we were going to leave, it had to be tonight. We grabbed the belongings we had and ran for our lives through the slums and dirty streets. We were on the run for many days and nights because we had no idea if our pimp had connections or if he could find us. He's a very connected guy, and like I said earlier, no one really thinks child prostitution and trafficking is a bad thing. We were sure someone would turn us in if we stayed somewhere for too long.
So when did you finally stop running? How did you know you were safe?
After being on the run for over a week, we finally got to a place where we recognized some people and we felt as if someone could help us to find a safe place to stay. We were finally connected to an anti-child trafficking unit who specializes in helping kids get out of this dangerous business. We were able to live at the unit, get the kind of health treatment we needed, as well as find a new and safe way to make money. Ultimately, we met back with our families after a long reconnection process, and now I live back at home with my mom and brother. But it took a long time to trust them again, especially after finding out they didn't really look for me during the time I was away.
So what are you doing with your life today?
After many years of recovering from all the abuse I experienced, I am now an advocate for the anti-child trafficking units who are trying to help the kids who get caught up in this ugly business. I am also trying to spread awareness about what really goes on within child trafficking, so we can help change the culture in India so more kids won't have to go through what I did, and so many of my friends went through. It's not going to be easy.
How can our viewers help you in your project? What would you like to say to them right now?
Hi Americans! I know you have issues plaguing with your own country, but I would love if you would take a minute to look at what child trafficking is doing in India, as well as other countries that also have high child trafficking rates. This is a problem that can't be ignored any longer, especially as more and more kids are being sold into slavery each and every day. I hope you would consider helping me by spreading awareness so that no more kids have to be abused. My story is not unique. So many others experience this sort of abuse too, but I was just lucky enough to escape.
Please consider helping out many of the kids who have been mistreated just like Amara. This story is still being written, and we would hope you would join us in stopping child trafficking everywhere. Go to www.stoptrafficking.org to give any sort of donation so that kids don't have to be taken out of their homes in the middle of the night.
Thank you for that story, Sarah. Viewers, please consider donating and help spread awareness about this issue. We hope that tonight's panel, as well as the touching story from Amara, will make you consider what a truly devastating issue child trafficking is, and how you can help fix this problem. Thank you for watching, and a good night from all of us here at NBC News.